Measuring the energy transition in the alpine space is a big topic, and that was actually the goal of the project Chavino, to provide data and also visualize this data across the alpine space and also be able to compare it. In our previous video, we already presented together with Mathieu Denou from Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes Energy and Environment Agency what this platform can do, and this time we are going to look more detail into how to create a login, how to customize your own dashboards, and therefore I welcome Mathieu with us today here from Lyon, and we are here in Penzberg. Mathieu, thank you very much for joining us today. Once again, let's jump right in and share your screen, and let's see how we can actually set up a very detailed view and dashboard from the Chavino platform.
Thank you, Stefan. Hello, everyone. It's very nice to be here to present the results, the first results of our Chavino project. So, for advanced users, as I'm sure you are, we will dive in directly. So first, you need to create an account. You have a button called the register that allows to create an account and to be able to access to the platform. Obviously, I did it before, so I already have an account. So once...
Mathieu, one question. Who can register? Is it everyone, or is it just...
Yes, of course, the platform is open to everyone who is interested in the energy transition in the USALP space. So we'd be happy to welcome you, and if you have any feedbacks, you can always write to us in our About section. So if I try to log in, I will have access to 3 new buttons. First is my account, which is just giving me the opportunity to change my details. And then the first button that is really interesting for us is the My Dashboards button. The idea here is that it allows you to create your own dashboard and to select the indicators that you want to follow on the region. Maybe I can select my own region, Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, and here you have access to the dashboard edition screen. So the first element is it's like divided in groups. So you have here one group and here another one, and so on. You can define the title of a group. For example, I can say transport consumption. Let's dive into transport energy consumption. I can edit the description, and then you will add some indicators to this group of indicators. Here you already have 3, which are selected by default. And first, I will choose the final energy consumption indicator, and then you can select the kind of graph that you want to include. So here it's a list of indicators, and then for each indicator you can select different type of graphs. For example, if I want to have a bar chart, I can have the bar chart with the list of the years, and then I can also select, for example, stacked curves, and so on. You can have various access to various diagrams.
Okay, but you can preview every way to display them right away. Okay.
Once you select a kind of diagram, it shows directly below. So for example, here I chose circular diagram. As I am trying to have maybe a focus on transport, I will use stacked curves, and I will uncheck all other sectors which we are not concerned with, to have only the transport sector. So here I unchecked everything, and I have only the transport curve. Before going further, the first thing to do is always to save your work. So I will save my dashboard, but first I will need a title. So I can say maybe transport dashboard, very simple one, and I will save it. It asks whether I want to save the filters, because I just filtered some sectors. So I will say yes, because I want to keep this modification saved in, but you can always click no to to have everything checked again.
So, Mathieu, if I understand correctly, every time I change one detail or indicator of one group, I have to save the whole dashboard in order to have those changes be in effect. Correct?
Yes, correct, exactly. If you want, you can still wait before you have edited everything that you wanted to change. For example, here I will create a new group, maybe some details around population and transport. And then I will add a new indicator, and I will select maybe detailed population with a circular diagram by age class to have an idea of what part of the population might need some car or and so on. And here I will also add a new indicator around maybe gross consumption for transport. And I will also use a circular diagram. And then I will need to save the changes here. So I will keep the filters to have the same kind of first graph, and then my dashboard is saved. You can do it whenever you want, but the best idea is to save when you have done some major changes to avoid losing your work if something happened, if there is a bug or maybe a connection loss or something.
Okay. So I understand. So this is how you work with groups and indicators, and how you can also add several indicators to one group. Is that correct?
Yes, you can add as many indicators as you want. For example, here I added gross consumption for transport by fuel source. I can add gross consumption for transport, but with another kind of maybe bar chart to have another overview of the same indicator and so on. And you can add as many indicators as you want. The main point being that if you have too many information on the same dashboard, the person reading it might get lost by the information. So here I will save the changes and I will try to visualize my dashboard. So it will be available on the left menu in your My Dashboards small nav bar, and you will have access here. As you can see, we have my transport dashboard. So here I can visualize it on my region, and I can have access to the same features I presented before, exporting as images, exporting the data, have access to the main indicator on the map. You can see also that the filters that we have saved are still checked or unchecked, and we have the two groups of indicators. What is interesting here is that you can also use this dashboard on other regions. For example, here I use it on Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, but I can maybe go to, I don't know, Lombardia in Italy, and I will be able to also to display my dashboard for this region. So here, of course, you have some data which are missing, but you can always compare it with other regions. For example, I will go back to Baden-Württemberg here, and you will be able to see the evolution and side by side the two like regional indicators.
So this is a way how this comparison always works, because you mentioned it, I think, in the beginning, that it is also possible to draft those dashboards as a comparison between two regions. Am I correct?
In fact, once you are like showing a dashboard, as I am doing here, you can always share this dashboard using the URL, which is available, which give access to like at the same time to the dashboard use and also the territory displayed. But if you are comparing with another territory, for example, here I will compare the whole USALP macro region with my own country, for example. I will select France. And then you will have also the parameters saved inside the URL at the top. So you can always share this link with anyone. And even if it's your own dashboard, this link is available for anyone to visit. So he will be able to visualize your own comparison. So you cannot save the comparison inside the dashboard, but you can always um, share the comparisons that you want to highlight with people using the link of your browser.
Yeah, sounds good. I think something interesting that you pointed out now is that if you compare it to a country, it is only meant that the country, like France right now, is the data that is available throughout the USARP territory. So this is not the energy data for France, but more like for the USARP share of France, correct?
Exactly. When collecting the data, we only wanted to include the regions that are concerned by the Alpine microregion. So that's why we selected a few regions. If you go back to the map, you will be able to see when you click on all regions to see which were the region that were implied in the Alpine energy data survey, I would say. And once you display, for example, if I go back to my dashboard, and I compare it with France, you will see that you have some warning element saying that, for example, here for France, there are two regions that have no data associated to this indicator. So, for example, here, as I have 4 regions in France, I have only 2 that filled in their data related to final energy consumption and so on.
Okay, so again, in order to get to valid messages from this Javino platform, it would be necessary to look for regions that are comparable also to the degree of how much data is available and the quality of the data, and then you can actually draw conclusions. Otherwise, you have to look into the sources and actually what you are comparing. Okay, but this is always
so
displayed.
that's why
Okay.
we implemented those warnings. So when you look at a dashboard, you have the warning. So the best idea to use this comparison tool is maybe to compare some territories that can be compared. For example, here we have 2 sub-regions, so some 2 regions from Germany, if I compare it with Baden-Württemberg. And so it's things that are that can be compared because they are like regional levels. And of course, some data might not be available. For example, here in Baden-Württemberg, we don't have like the details of the transport sector, but we have it for Bayern and so on. So using like the lowest level, which is the regional level, is maybe the best if you want to be sure to have the full control on the data. Otherwise, you will have to consult the sources and, of course, the warning messages that could be displayed on the platform.
Okay, so we talked about how to create your own individual dashboards using your groups of indicators. We can also compare different regions. We have URLs that we can share in order to have somebody else look at the comparison that we came up with. What else is there that we have to look at now?
And the final feature that can be interesting for any people interested in the energy transition is the aggregation tool. The idea here is that you can create a custom aggregation of regions to be able maybe to have a dashboard on your own aggregation. For example, if I want to look at only two regions because I know they have a strong links together, for example, I will create only a group. So first, I will maybe describe this screen because it's quite a big screen. First, you have a small context explaining how this whole custom aggregation works. Then you have tools that allow you to create your own aggregation. The idea is that an aggregation is composed of various groups. You can create one group or maybe many groups. So here, for example, I will create only one group. I will call it like French-Italian collaboration. And in this group, I will include maybe like these 3 regions because 4 regions, sorry, because they are linked by the fact that we have like a land line coming for electricity coming through Pacca and going to Italy. I don't need to add another group, but if you want to add a new group, you can, for example, here group to additional group. you can always add a new group here. I will delete it right away, but it allows you to create more groups if you want. And then you can save your aggregation, French, Italian cooperation. I will save the aggregation, and then I will be able to come back to it if I want later on. I will be able always to edit, to delete. But more interestingly is the fact that I will be able to watch any indicator on this specific region. For example, here it's highlighted in red, and I will be able to, I don't know, to have the population or the detailed population, or if more interestingly, I will be able to have the electricity production. Of course, you have a warning on some regions that might be unavailable, but of course here, these regions are not concerned by our custom aggregation. And so you have the aggregated electricity production for all these regions together. So that's a very powerful tool that can be used at the same time for indicators, but also if you want, you can still show it on a dashboard. For example, here I chose as a territory my French-Italian cooperation. I can compare it as previously with regions or countries and so on. And I have the aggregated data for our four regions together, aggregating in a single dashboard.
Amazing. Just one question: when you select the regions, do you have to hold Shift or anything, or is it just selecting and deselecting?
Yes, if I go back to my editing screen, you have two ways to edit a group. Either you select your territories through a select field. For example, here I will add an Austrian territory. Or the second way, and then I will remove it using the buttons. Or the second way is not using this selection field, but to click edit on the group you want to edit. So for example, if I want to create like German-Austrian cooperation group, I will be able to do so. And I will click, either I can select I will add it to selection number 1, or you can also click on edit, and then it will become highlighted, and then you can just click on the map. And if you click on a region that was already selected, of course, it will remove it. And if you click on a region that was in another group, it will move it to the group that you are currently editing. So for example, if I made a mistake because this one should be in the French-Italian cooperation group. So I will put it back, and then I will go back to my German and Austrian cooperation group. I've selected maybe too many regions, and then I'm good, and I can save my aggregation. And then once I look back, I have to update the page. But once I look back at my map, I will see that I can still have the same visualization of the indicators of the dashboards, but for the two groups. So the only problem of creating more than one group is when you are going to look at the dashboards, you will have the aggregation of the two groups together. So for example, here on final energy consumption, or maybe I will take like a gross consumption, I have 178. And if I look at as a total, and if I look here, I have 178. So I cannot have the detail between the German cooperation group and the French-Italian cooperation group. So maybe sometimes it's best to create aggregations with only one group and to compare the aggregations between each other. Or if you want to have like a nice visualization on the map, you can create some aggregations with more than one group.
Custom areas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yes, Mathieu, I'm still astonished how much you can draw from this energy data across the Alpine space, across the EUSALP region. So yes, is there anything else users have to know? Or is it just important to know people are invited to try out and test the capabilities, and maybe once they're stuck, maybe you can still show how you get back and do a little reset. Is that just by deleting the created dashboards and the customized areas, or is there maybe another feature to keep in mind?
No, I think if someone is like maybe lost in the aggregation or dashboard, you can always like come back to the map. You always have a link that allows to go back to the map, and like the map is like a very good start point, a good entry point, because you have like the basics, and then you can like peacefully go back to my dashboards or aggregation. So maybe the map is like the center of the whole platform. I think if anyone wants to test it, I think that two main points are really interesting. Of course, the indicators and what we presented before with Stefan, and the fact that you can always export the data for any indicator. So if you want to go further into details, you can. And the second point is the fact that the project is open source, so you can always have access to an open source page, which describes how you can contribute to the project. So of course it's based on another software which is called Terristory, which is a French software, but which is also open source, and you can have access to the Git repository if you want to look into dive into the code, and you can always like report some bugs and or maybe suggest a new feature, and you can have access, of course, to the changelog and so on. So I think part of this, the philosophy of our Chavino project is, of course, around this open data idea, the fact that we want to be able to build strong links between the regions and a very relevant policy. We want to have open data, so access to any data that could be useful to the public, local authorities, and so on. But at the same time, it goes hand in hand with open source movement. So that's why the tool that we use to visualize the data is an open source tool.
Thank you very much, Mathieu. I think that's a brilliant way to end this video. Thank you very much for presenting all this work that you and all the colleagues from Chavino put together. The idea is that actually people use it, and so therefore I encourage you out there to just jump right in, set up an account, and try out all the dashboards and indicators that Mathieu just explained. If you are interested more about the project Chavino, please visit our website on Alpine Space and look for Chavino, and also feel free to follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube, and also leave a comment if you like this video or if you have any recommendations for the future. The project is going to work more on the details in the future, and also I think there might be possibilities to draw scenarios and all those kind of things. So this is not the end. If you're watching us from the future, we are here in the year of 2024 in January. So bear with us if we didn't know everything that's happening in the future. But yeah, still leave a comment. We would be happy to hear from you. Thank you very much for watching.